on Facebook is a little different. But we're supposedly going live. So are we not going to be able to hear the music, or should I just hit it?
It would take me a minute to set it up.
Let's not worry about it. Welcome to 3D Politics Live. Tom McKay, your fantastic host on the new Zoom reality we have. I've got David Oldham and David Van right here on the Zoom meeting for 3D Politics Live. And we're apparently transferring right now to Facebook because I can't be in two places at once like I used to be when I was young. I'm unable to know for sure if we're actually on there at the same time, but I bet we'll get some comments one way or the other. David Van over there from SoonerPolitics.org and David Oldham from ConstitutionalGrounds.com, and me, Tommy McKay at Tommy McKay on Facebook and Twitter. We are winging it tonight because it's been so exciting. We don't really have an order that's been figured out. I know I want to cry like a baby over Venice Beach where they're filling up the skateboard park, because when my knee gets healed, I'm going to skateboard out there. But other than that, I know Van's got a thing he wants to talk about, and Oldham is on fire with the stuff that is protests going on all over the nation. Boys, what do you got for me tonight?
Oldham, give it to him.
Well, you know, I mean, we've got protests today here in Oklahoma, Arizona, Colorado, Pennsylvania, and elsewhere, Washington State and so forth. So protests are happening. People want to go back to work. People are pushing back against the dictates from governors and mayors. Friends of mine have been arrested in New Jersey.
Wow.
New Jersey is going after organizers of such protests. I mean, specifically targeting them. And then they are also in New Jersey. They are so crazy. They are flying drones to find people out of doors in their own backyard so they can issue summons.
Come on, now these drones are unmanned. When they start manning the drones, then we worry.
There's some guy flying it just down the street. He's outside,
Sure,
but that's okay.
Sure. He's your neighbor. Peeping
then,
drone. I say we change it to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
drone.
nuts. But and the protests are getting national attention. Our friends here in Oklahoma and my friends, arrested friends back in New Jersey, are making national news. Fox News is all over this. It looks like 3 different segments on 3 different news programs are going to be highlighting these the protests here and in New Jersey, and the arrests that have been made of the organizers. So it looks like we're beginning to get a little pushback for the unconstitutional dictates and the enforcement of those dictates. So,
Van, what do you got?
Well, we just heard what in the last half hour we tuned into Fox News, and one of our friends here, Lori Gracie, was on, and Martha McCallum totally drank the Kool-Aid, was assuming that we were infecting people by violating the social anti-social distancing, and Lori had to set her straight. No, we aren't. These are automotive protests. You know, this is shoe polish on the windows.
Well, speak for the rest of them, because I was there and I was totally breaking.
We expect that from you.
Yeah, you got friends that are getting arrested, David. So.
Well, so were the cops who were standing right behind me, and they were all congregated, 3 or 4 or 5 of them together.
But the thing is, they've been lying about the nature of the Oklahoma protests, both last Wednesday and today, and we have to set them straight. Now, I guarantee you what Lori said is not going to be enough. They're going to still keep touting the line that we're infecting people every time we have one of these events.
Because the big national takeaway from the interview with Lori was that Lori is reasonable. Sounds like you're rational.
Rational, yes.
You sound like you're rational. That's a freak out because you're from Oklahoma.
Martha should have known. Martha should have known this. She gets paid the big bucks to know the actual truth.
Here's what they were expecting. Well, I'll tell you what. If they don't open up Oklahoma, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to burn down the old damn Capitol is what I'm going to do. Because I got 6 cows out here I got to feed, and I'm not going to sit around all that, blah, 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 blah.
That's right.
And they're like, oh my God.
I don't know anybody that's got
someone
cows to feed
rational from Oklahoma. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, that's me.
Where's my spittoon?
Oh my gosh. It's
horrible. So yeah, this is going on, but you know, now is everybody behaving themselves in the way that Oldham would approve? No, you know. In fact, a lot of people that are generally usually on our side on things like this involving constitutional liberty are even questioning what's going on here. I support it as long as, you know, we're doing things in a way that it's like Oldham, you know, said, you know, the biggest affront of this is the coercion of things that common sense 99% of the time is enough, you know?
Yeah.
And instead they're treating us all like toddlers, and that's the most insulting thing they can do.
One of the things that Bynum did not address today on his big COVID update was how much distance I should leave between the car in front of me and the car I'm driving in. Because, you know.
Did anybody see his update today? Because I missed it. I've been so busy. I haven't had a chance to see it.
I heard, isn't it Dr. Dart right here in Tulsa that said he was angry at the virus and it got a replay all over the local news? Isn't that him? The guy's like, he speaks with a lisp, and God bless him, he's got a lisp. He's a brilliant guy, smarter than me. And so, but there he is. He's like, a couple of weeks or a week ago, I'm angry at the virus. I'm so mad. The last thing I want to see from a professional doctor is emotional outbursts. That's what you get from me. I'm not a doctor.
Tom, you're on to a good point here. And if I could elaborate on it, notice how the government's effort here is to get us to distrust each other.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of distrusting the government.
Yeah.
Well, certainly the media has wanted that. Certain governments certainly have, and the dictators certainly have. In fact, they want everybody to turn their neighbor in. You know, call 1-800 I'm a Nazi.
Okay,
Van, what were you saying?
The local Fox affiliate here, 6 o'clock, they head up their news with, and we've got an exciting event we want to announce that's going to be this Friday night. It's being sponsored by Mayor Bynum and the Tulsa Park Department at 7 o'clock. Go outside on your balcony or in your front yard and make a lot of noise for 2 minutes in support of our frontline workers.
They picked 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Who picked 2 minutes?
And the anchor said it's exciting. She's playing high school cheerleader.
This is sick. Do you know why 2 minutes is pertinent?
No.
You guys are Orwellian fans, right? You know George Orwell.
Yeah.
Do you remember 1984 when they would always congregate to do what? They would have their 2 minutes of hate. That was literally
I didn't
what
know
they did in 1984. Is George Orwell's 1984? 2 minutes of hate.
You
and
see,
this
folks,
is where they all got out there. Yeah, from a guy like me who's not even a doctor. I'm not even a doctor.
I had no idea. I had no idea. I had no idea.
Almost killed the studio over here.
Hey, can I trade microphones with you? I love that 1940s microphone you got.
It's just a graphic image.
I was gonna say, I was wondering if that was a graphic.
Looks
it's not.
I love America. Anyway. Yeah. You know, so I do have a COVID-19 mathematical. It's a story problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, you know, they said we're going to calculate, if you've got, it's almost like racism of the 1860s. If you had a drop of black blood in you, you know, you were black, right? Didn't matter what you looked like.
Yep.
Right. Black. So now they're saying, look, if you got a drop of COVID on you, it doesn't matter how you die. It doesn't matter how you die.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to drop
Right.
a code. So here's my story problem. There's two people. They both have COVID for sure. Just ontological knowledge, God knows, both of them have COVID. Now, one of them, driver A, he knows he has COVID because he's driving home from his test where he found out he has COVID. And driver B, he doesn't know he has COVID yet because he's headed to the test. They both crash into each other and die. Which one is calculated as a COVID death?
3 o'clock.
The first time I can agree with Oldham. Pow! 3 o'clock. Sounds right.
I hated those.
Let's move on. I'm just saying, look, it doesn't matter how you die. They get to calculate it either way you want, which is why it's ridiculous that we're living by models. According to the models.
And bad ones at that.
One. I got one. According to models, if we were going to live our lives by the models, we would not have gotten to the moon because the guy would have said, abort flight, because there was a red light that said, don't do it. There's a problem. We might die. Hell yeah, we might die. We're on the moon. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to say, I did some screenshots a month ago of what they said these models would look like. Oh, you got some virus in the corner of your screen there,
Yeah,
Tom.
dude.
Creeping in.
It's a government coming after me.
Oh, where's your chase car?
What the hell did I do?
Well, anyway, what I want to say is these models all look like this nice, smooth, manicured ski lift, the hill, right?
Yeah.
And it's no bumps or anything. Yeah. And now you look over the last at least the last 2 weeks, and it's been up, every which way. And
Right.
so these models,
Well, they've been changing numbers just in the last few days.
Oh, yeah.
Over the weekend, the numbers came down dramatically. But the other thing is, when you look at the numbers, notice that they've started with the numbers and they were, way up like this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when the numbers really turn out to be this, they now shrink everything and then re-blow up the new lower numbers so that it still looks like this.
Yeah. That 2.4 million, we got to remember, they told us 2.4 million. And the other thing.
Hey, before you get going, let me tune everybody back in. We're about 15 minutes in. And let's if you're just tuning in, which is ridiculous, you should have been here 15 minutes ago. Because we always start right on time. And so you're listening to 3D Politics, the most amazing thing going on underground in Oklahoma, because when they shut us down, we'll still be having our meeting. David Van and David Oldham right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, putting on an amazing show, 3D Politics. I'm Tommy McKay on Facebook and Twitter. We're going live still in a Zoom format on Facebook, and Van was going on about what he was saying, and yet there he is again. Nice job, Van. What were you saying, Van, before I got us all reset?
Okay. Well, the models that we're constantly dropping below, those models took into account social distancing. Because that started 5 weeks ago, right? And then the safer at home modeling and all that, and we're still dropping well below those numbers. I mean, they were talking, quite a bit more deaths here in Oklahoma. I mean, we were talking 50,000 deaths at one time in Oklahoma, or well, not 50, I forget how many thousands, but 20,000.
This was going to be the big week of death,
Yeah, it was, so
My big week of death was like 95.
Yeah.
Well, don't you know, that's all because they have made us stay at home, that this is been accomplished.
How do they draw the correlation between that? Because this is what Bynum was saying. Oh, what I told you to do worked. Well, maybe maybe my tarot cord. Maybe I put a tarot card spell on everybody and it worked.
Yeah.
How can we tell the difference, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you mean what he did worked? You know, it's ridiculous. Anybody in the restaurant, but I'll tell you this, we are listening. The problem here is we elected GT Bynum, and that's understandable. You elect a guy, you may not agree with him, but you elect him. Now, this Dr. Dark guy, anybody from the health department, if you're from the health department, you are an unelected boop. And you might have all sorts of information, but anybody who has a restaurant knows that every time you deal with the health department, you're dealing with a freaking Nazi that's out of their mind, that doesn't have any understanding of reasonable behavior. So unfortunately, our governor is telling us, I'm not going to do anything till the health department tells me to. Well, why don't you stick this litmus test up your friend of mine and figure out if you got a blue or a red. This is ridiculous that the person, why don't we vote on the health department then? If the health department is going to be the person that decides whether we can live our freaking lives, why in the hell do we vote on a freaking mayor who claims to be a Republican in a red state? When I ran against him, he wasn't a Republican. He was nonpartisan. Ooh, I'm nonpartisan. But now that he's freaking mayor, what is he? He's a Republican in a red state. That is bull crap, my friends.
Yeah.
It's interesting because this segues into another story that I wanted to share, and it's up on constitutional grounds. I don't remember if I shared it to 3D Politics. If not, I will share it. But it was I don't know if you guys saw it. It was the Tucker Carlson interview with the New Jersey mayor, or the New Jersey governor, Murphy. And Carlson had asked him several times for any scientific or constitutional background authority for him to be doing any of the things that he was doing, you know, in his executive orders that violated rights. And he said, well, that's above my pay grade. And I wasn't thinking of the Bill of Rights when I made my order.
Yeah.
And to which Tucker said, oh, it appears so.
Yeah.
And he just snickered and then went on. I mean, it appears, I mean, it was obvious. But I mean, he had to keep hammering it, and to his credit, Carlson didn't let it go until he got that answer. Because he kept trying to dodge the question, both on the science aspect and on the constitutional authority aspect of, you know, how you can justify any of the actions basically that you're doing.
Yeah.
And so he you know, and that's like Bynum. He defers to the health department. The health department defers to the models. Everybody's deferring to someone else, and eventually gets to some unnamed thing, you know, the model.
Models are a form of artwork. What you put in and the gradient scale of numbers calculates the color of the picture.
Well, do you remember the I put up a clip from an old movie where they came up with statistics for this thing that they were lobbying for, this bill they were lobbying for, and it just showed them just drawing it, and then the guy got to the end, he's like, tell me when to stop. And then he had some extra paint on the brush, so he put a little swoop on it to make it go even further, you know. And it was all to promote a thing here in Oklahoma in the movie.
Yeah,
Van, what do you got?
I wanted to say something in this, like your feedback, Oldham. There's a Tulsa cop that's on once a week on Monday mornings on Pat Campbell's show.
Okay.
Forget his name, but he wrote a book. He's been a detective. And Pat was asking him about, you know, some of these emergency orders.
Oh, is it Dave? What's his name? Used to be the homicide chief here in town. I think he's
either way. What?
What's his name? Yeah, what's his name?
What the hell did he say? Damn it.
If I knew, I wouldn't ask you.
I know.
You
I
guys
know which
should
one
know
you're
the
talking
kind
about.
of cheese I'm eating.
Stemmons or something like that. I don't know. But
Yeah.
But anyway, he said these aren't laws; these are rules that they are enforcing.
Okay.
You know, they don't show up in your statutory code.
Right.
And what he said, police officers do not want to be the first line of defense on enforcing them. Whatever agency they came from, that agency needs to be the first contact, is, in his opinion, how he feels like it would be an abuse of police powers for an agency to make an emergency rule and then throw it at the cops and say, now you go start writing tickets and making arrests.
Okay.
And
right.
I'd like to hear your feedback on that.
Well, again, we have a seriously screwed up system here in Oklahoma, whereby agencies create law outside of the legislature.
Well, they're rules. They're not laws. They're rules, but they're treated as law.
They're treated as law. They are rules.
Yeah.
Constitutionally, again, there's not a problem if they're actually lawful, if they are actually constitutional. In other words, they're not violating their allowed prescription or their allowed authority, and if they're not violating our rights.
Yeah.
So it could be that they're wholly lawful and you'd have to abide by them. The problem is that for the most part, that doesn't exist with what we're facing.
Here's the problem. If you remember when the people passed medical marijuana a couple of years ago,
right?
The health department came up with a whole bunch of these rules, and they just made up rules. And it took our attorney general, after the threat of a lawsuit, a credible threat, it was already filed, saying that you're beyond the statutory framework, which you're allowed to work within. You know, like for instance, when it says you make an application for a medical marijuana license, rules would be things such as, what does that form look like? Right? You know, how do we do it? What are the rules, the process? How do we herd the crowds and get them through? And then, you know, so that's framework. The rules are framework for the statutory laws. But what's happening here is you've just got edicts, and none of these things have any precedence in court case to find out whether they're legal or not. It's just a claim. Go ahead, Tom.
And I just want to, I think what you're touching on, it connects in the area of what seems amazingly disparate, but it's like changing the clocks on daylight savings time. The power of perception resides in the collective reality. And if everybody but me decides it's 6 o'clock, not 7, well, screw you. It's 6, you know? And so they get to decide whatever the reality is. And this is why I brought up the Serpico movie that has that drinking from the poison well story on Radio Free 3D, where if the entire village drinks from the poison well and they're all mad, and the king doesn't join them in their madness, he's the mad one. So the power resides in public opinion. And if we all agree that, okay, well, you can't do that, then you can't do that.
Yeah, it's culture. Culture's much harder to change than law.
It was my same argument when they were walking around with their breasts hanging out to say, look, women can walk around breastless. Like I like a good breast just as well as any guy, and yet still the area we live in has community standards, and even if I want to see you naked, doesn't mean the community wants to see you naked, and so you've offended the community. It's not about what's legal; it's about what the community will allow, because true consent of the government, of the governed, resides in the public opinion.
Yeah. Well, actually,
we are allowing this.
Well, actually, you've got to be careful, because consent starts with the Constitution. We have consented to constitutional governance, and that's via the Constitution. Now, only within that framework and within those parameters can you then have a further Democratic or Republican consent for a particular government action.
Right. That's
okay.
Great. That's a great acknowledgement, because we're not just consenting to whatever the government says. We're consenting to a proper, rational consent of a constitutional government, not just anything they say because they're in charge.
Right. You guys we've been doing this now for a year, and that's my big bugaboo. It's like getting people to understand that we get to have a vote only on those things that are within within the authority that should be granted to government, and we're not allowed to vote on other things that would violate individual rights.
I want to say one thing about some great stuff I've learned from Oldham over the last year, and then we're going to also retune in everybody to reset the program and move on with the rest of it. But one of the greatest learnings I've had from Oldham over this last year of doing 3D politics is the difference between prohibition and
regulation.
The concept that we're just we can regulate stuff to maintain proper flow of traffic, but that doesn't mean you can't. That doesn't mean you're prohibited from going anywhere you want to go. Prohibiting and regulations. To 3D Politics, Tommy McKay here on Facebook Live, as far as I know. And I've got David Oldham, constitutionalgrounds.com, and also David Van, SoonerPolitics.org, the only place to go to find out news in Oklahoma about state politics. The thing that really bothered me about this G.T. Bynum continual, everybody wants to be Trump now. Cuomo wants a Daily Star show. Everybody wants their own Apprentice show. Everybody wants to say, you're fired, I'm doing it, whatever. So GT gets up there, and it always sounds like an award ceremony. If we were all dying from Japanese, bombs falling, it'd be like, here's a bunker, run like hell. But we get up and it sounds like an award ceremony. I just want to thank the mayor, and I want to thank the governor, and I want to thank Karen Keith. And I want to thank the Academy on behalf of the Academy and my graphic. I just want to thank everybody, and thank you, Governor, and thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Dart, for being not afraid to show your fear.
You all like me. You really like me.
That's it. That's exactly. That's right. You guys really like me. What the hell is an award ceremony? This is not an update anymore. Okay? It's not an update. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
My Sally moment.
Not a freaking update. And the governor. So the freaking. I get the governor and the mayor confused. I don't know why.
They're both from Tulsa. Can I say something about the governor? Let's reset back to Wednesday. Now, Oldham, you broke the news last week on this show about this rally coming up on Wednesday.
Right.
And it went together pretty fast, pretty well organized. There were a lot of people showed up that I don't think anybody knew who they were. And mostly it was independent business people, right? A
lot of them were, yeah.
Yeah, they just came out of the woodwork, and it was kind of like that. It was it was time, right? There was such a groundswell, and
remember last week I predicted that it was going to start that week. It was going to start last week.
So I watched. Now, that day I was like in zombie land because I had some oral surgery that morning, and I tried to run a little bit of playing the anchor desk. Matt Vermillion was doing a great show, from his vehicle. And then so was Mayor Hobbs from Newkirk. He was down there. In fact, he interviewed Nathan Dahm and stuff. So, we were just trying to throw this thing together. And then I watched the governor afterward. And the governor wanted to pretend he didn't even know you guys were there. But I think the first question, I think it came from, was from Trey Savage. Hey, what do you say about all these vehicles outside circling the campus? You know, and, you know, he said something. He said, all of these emergency executive orders expire on April 30th. With the exception of our most vulnerable populations, we want them to stay home until May 6th. And that's our line in the sand.
Right.
If he adds any more regulation onto that, then he is absolutely doubling down and saying, not only do I defy you protesters, but I'm going to throw some more stuff.
Right. Well, and they should realize that the discontent for the handling of the epidemic, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, has been, or the scamdemic, plandemic, whatever you know it is. Well, because Bill Gates is looking to try to get his company kickstarted off of this thing that he's been trying to get forever. Now it could be just that it's a great crisis, but it could also have been somewhat planned in the way it was handled. And that's been talked about. But and there's some evidence actually, but now I forgot my point.
Well, I'm against evidence all the way.
Yeah.
And plus, you know that I think I speak for everybody in 3D politics. We're not pro-virus. I mean, I don't know about you guys.
No,
I'm not in favor of the virus. Like, you know, if the virus is going to be the plague, I'm not for it. Anyway.
So you're not out licking doorknobs, Tom?
Oh my gosh! Knocking doors and licking doorknobs. I can't count the number
I can't count the number of times that I've been told that I should go out and lick doorknobs at Walmart, and then I have no right to medical care, as if I want it,
you know,
and that I should die and go to hell because.
The thing as a philosopher who doesn't really have, you know, medical knowledge, the reality of logic though is that whether it's COVID-19 or any other danger, remember back during the Revolutionary War, Van, when we were fighting?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you did. And
that was a fun summer.
Summer of love. And so the thing is though, it was dangerous to be free, and you were literally provoking the king, and he could literally kill you. And it wasn't like, you know, a virus. Like literally, if you told someone you wanted to support the Constitution, it was like catching the COVID-19, because now you were no longer a loyalist. You were now, you know, you're trouble. And I mean, you know, a Star of David, etc. And so you can go on and on and on, but we are literally at the point where we have to decide, are we going to take our own liability for our own risk, or are we going to give that to government? Because we can see government will what I call they're going to pre-ration. Okay?
Right.
They don't just ration, they pre-ration. Because what they've been doing is not saving our lives. They've been keeping us from overwhelming their system.
Yes.
That's pre-rationing.
Right. They set this up. The states have been doing this for decades, where you can't open a hospital as a free enterprise entity. You need a certificate of need from the State Hospital Association. That means all of your competitors have to want you to come in and compete against them. You know, but that's a little aside.
Get that vote.
what I really want to get with it, going back more to your main point.
Okay.
A governor of, I think it was Illinois, might have been Minnesota, wanted Trump charged with inciting violence because he's encouraging people to protest. Now, here's the point, Tom. They equate protest is violence. Right. Disagreeing with a liberal is violence.
Right.
And they want you to believe that. And it's no different than the tyranny that we faced in the revolution.
Yeah,
no difference.
That's true. That's a fact from the communist studies of the Soviets and the Chinese mind control.
Yeah.
Any disagreement at all is considered violent.
Yeah. Now, I've seen some things on social media here in Tulsa that I'm not really pleased, because there have been some cheap shots that I would not agree to, particularly with Mayor Bynum.
My cheap shots? My
God, not us. And I really don't want to get into the who
shot
or what.
I missed? Okay,
but
I'm just
if
joking.
You're going to allege something, get your facts straight. If you're going to say that somebody's deleting comments off of social media, be sure that you haven't checked see relevant comments only. Okay, because we got some.
Yeah.
My son commented to me. He says, Dad, Bynum didn't delete them. Look at here, it says showing most relevant comments. Click here to see all of them, and they were all there. And that just, to me, is a cheap shot that undermines a very important position that so many of our allies have had. And I just want to encourage my allies for liberty and freedom, for the constitutional rights of people, be careful. Do your homework before you make an allegation, because it'll discredit you, and then we don't have your credibility for the rest of it.
Yeah, I've been accused of that in some Facebook spats. We're like, oh yeah, smart ass, you deleted your yeah, me, can you believe it? And they're like, oh yeah, you deleted your comments, you chicken. You know, I'm like, dude, you know, my theory from the beginning was I never say anything I don't mean, and I never delete a damn thing, and I never block anybody. Okay, so it's like I lay it out there. You wanna hate me? You can go back 3 years and hate me all you want. Yeah.
It's like David Tackett said, none of my aggression is passive.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good one. Let me write that. Good. That's a good one. Let me write that down. That's good. Hey, you're listening to 3D Politics. Tommy McKay right here on the amazing Facebook Live. And isn't it amazing the technological world we live in, where we can have a multi-camera shoot without a producer? And I've got David Van and David Oldham here with me. And you know,
and I am here without my COVID chase car, so I'm, you know, I've got the ability to shoot multiple locations now.
You know, I heard a guy on the radio today, and I forget who it was talking. Again, I ran a restaurant before, and the health department is the least reasonable group. You think the DMV is bad? The health department's worse. You know.
Well, remember, it's these licensing agencies. They issue edicts. They rule by fiat, and just they're capricious and arbitrary very often. And there's no due process, and it's always you obey us or you lose your license, and we put you out of business.
Dude, you could be running a sandwich shop, and the health department would come in and say, you got to have a hand washing sink here. And you could tell them that will cause children to die. And they'd be like, so you got to have a hand washing sink.
Right.
Children will die. You know, oh, well, you know, edict. There it is.
You mentioned we're doing this without a producer. And I looked up, and the fourth frame had frozen, and so I had to stop and do some producing.
So
I'm really getting you now, Dave.
Well, and I've been talking about this because I need a haircut. My hair's I'm 5 or 6 weeks along.
Whoever looks at your hair, you got shoulders. Hell, I got hair.
Anyway, the point is that I was talking to some hair cutters because I was looking for a place, and they told me, a number of them told me that they had received letters from their licensing agency, whatever it is, the board or whatever it is for the hair cutters here in Oklahoma.
Follicle board.
And they said that they had received letters saying that if they were caught open, they would lose their license and their business would be shut.
I will get my hair cut at any place that doesn't have a license then?
Yes, but
if you
they
have
all,
a license, I'm not going there.
but we agreed, and they said they would start working under the table if necessary, because they still have a mortgage to pay. They still have, office expenses. They still have things that they need to do to survive, personally and professionally. And
I'll put this out here now, knowing it's going to get taken down later. It's time now for, in your family and with your loved ones, get a CB radio so that you can talk in between car to car, and it won't go to. Now, also get handhelds that'll do 25 miles. CB radios won't go that far, but go ahead and start setting up your fly-by-night handwritten message groups, because they're going to shut all this crap down. We're not going to be able to meet anymore. And they're taking notes right now with their algorithm of anybody who's anti whatever. And so the thing that I was an optimist until March 17th. And then they flipped the switch and turned the economy off. It's interesting to me that they say now, oh, we can't just flip the switch, turn it on. Well, hell yeah, flip the switch, turn it off. You can sure as hell just flip the switch, turn it right back on.
Well, and you make a perfect point. It is only the dictate that shut it off. It is only a simple dictate that frees it. And quite frankly, really what it's going to take is a flip in the minds of the public to just not consent and do what needs to be done, irrespective of what
what do you got?
Listen, tyrannical power is a very intoxicating, very addictive substance. These people have to be weaned off of this very slowly.
That was good.
By the way, I would tell you about the guy that I went to get my haircut from. He was a pretty cool guy. This is how I came out afterwards. Lives in my neighborhood. He's not licensed, and I'm sure you appreciate people who don't.
Are you now a Tiger King? Are you a Tiger King, Dave?
No, I posted it up one day, and I had a whole bunch of my friends say, "Oh, is that an overlay? Where can I get that?"
Hey, I've heard of a hair straightener, but can you get a nose straightener? Put that picture back up.
Okay.
A nose. Look at this. Yeah, hair straightener, yes, but nose straightener, can you fix that thing? I mean, Oldham's nose isn't even that bad.
Yeah, I actually took Joe's picture, and then I erased all the skin and everything, left his eyebrows and his big mustache and stuff, and then the hair, and the rest of that's me, I hate to say. But
I'm thinking about going by Tom Exotic. What do you guys think?
That's exotic. Hey, I finally this weekend, my kids came over to visit, and I don't have a Netflix account, so my son-in-law said, "Here, let me pop this baby up here. Let's watch Tiger King together."
Did you check it out?
I did. I
heard it gets you hooked.
I watched 3 episodes, and then I was about done. I watched the first couple, and then I moved to the one about when he's running for governor, because his campaign manager I had a little bit of interaction with. I left the Libertarian Convention that day before Joe showed up for the debate, but I wrote the story about how they had censured him, and then his campaign manager shows up, and it was pretty interesting. I don't know. I don't know that I'll watch the rest of it. I enjoyed it.
Do we have to see him the rest of the show, or are we going to get to see your?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh yes, I guess I should.
I can only stand that. I asked for it, but I didn't.
Okay.
That much of it.
But well, see there, I had to put that up for my review of Tiger King. I don't know. Not everybody's going to enjoy it.
My daughter tried to get me to watch it, even I was like, on an aside. Some people do, some people view, And I was like, I don't want to watch stuff. God, that's a giant cup, man. Anyway, so she shows me this thing, and I'm like, the one thing I can say is whoever whoever produced the production of what's it called? Live
Tiger King.
Tiger King.
This is 100% top notch national worldwide production. The video shots, the slow motion stuff, all the shots, they've grabbed all the reality you want. They pumped up. It's like a great hit song. You take a real life story when your 8th grade girlfriend broke your heart, and you turn it into a monumental love story.
Well,
it's just a little thing, but man, it's huge.
Here's the thing. Joe had done most of the video on there was done by Joe and his team. They were videoing everything.
But somebody produced this into a piece. You can have raw footage, but I mean, somebody produced this into a piece.
Yes. Whoever curated that into a narrative did a great job of it, no doubt. But
I've never seen it, so I have no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, it couldn't have been done without Joe having so much footage, raw footage. Like, for instance, when his gay spouse blows his brains out, it was off camera, but we're watching the campaign manager look at him in shock, like, my God, he just blew his brains out.
Oh my!
You know.
So you watched 3 episodes, man? I never got that.
Yeah.
Guy owned a cat. That's what I know.
You know, I got enough of the narrative of this phony people who are exploiting exotic animals, but at the same time saying, I am the protector of the exotic animals. You know,
I did think it was interesting that somebody was virtue signaling by saying, oh, we would go around to all the places this guy's trying to make a living and tell him, don't hire this guy, don't hire this guy. Damn, man.
But there again, now that's the Carol Baskin figure. That's the one that you're supposed to hate. She is the Darth Vader.
Oh.
Okay. And yeah, it's like, remember the old musical Music Man? You know, and how does he sell all of his band uniforms and instruments? He has to create a demon. If you can't identify the demon, you have to create one. There's trouble in River City. You know, it's the pool hall, it's the billiard hall. That's, you know, it's going to ruin our society, you know, and you get the people worked up about it. And it happens in politics all the time. You know,
COVID-19. I mean, there we go. Yeah. We're all worked up about it.
They will make up some, and I've seen good people's reputations destroyed for the sake of somebody else's political advantage. And it's horrible. It's horrible to see it happen. You know?
That's why I never had a good reputation. I always had a political advantage.
There you go. So, you know, it's what's happening in this, because you can really see Carol Baskin, you know, everybody talks about, wow, Joe is only paying his help $100 a week plus room and board and meals, right? Well, Carol Baskin wasn't paying him anything. She's acting like Joe is the one.
Whose business is it that we pay what we pay?
Exactly.
If somebody wants to pet a cat for $100 a week, it's my.
So you're saying that she wasn't actually paying out what he had agreed to pay? I'm not following.
She was recruiting people to work for free for a year as an intern.
Oh, okay.
Joe was paying them $100, you know, and
Joe's a fool.
Yeah. So, and but you know, Joe is like, hey, Carol, I'm not trying to ruin your life. You're the one coming after me.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And so. But here's the thing. I remember Rush Limbaugh, you know, first, the only time I think I've ever heard him give us a Henry Kissinger impersonation. He talked about the first time he's now part of New York media, and he finally gets invited to a dinner party at William F. Buckley's home, right? And all these hobnobbing, you know, big political, you know, who's there. And he ends up sitting next to Henry Kissinger. Now, this is back in the late 80s. I think it was 1990, maybe. And he says, he starts doing small talk with Kissinger. And finally, Kissinger turns. He says, you know, the problem with the Democrats as they accuse you of doing what they are doing. You know, and it's
Right.
true. Anything that Trump's being accused of, the Democrats have been doing as a regular course of behavior.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Oh, that's common.
Yeah, and Carol Baskin just is an illustration of that. She's going after Joe under the accusation of what she is so guilty of. It's pathetic.
this is
Oh,
the
yeah.
problem. And again, to just reach out there and poke the finger in the eye of the libertarians. This is a problem with the libertarians. It's just like, well, you just don't have the right people, running. It's like, this is a bullcrap, because the idea that we're going to find an ideal person, they don't exist. It's constitutional principles. We've got to get to the principles. What is the right basic angle? Yeah.
Ever hear of Paul Tay, Chris Barnett? I mean, I'm just thinking of a couple of Tulsans who are in prison right now, Republicans. Who else?
Yeah.
You can't stop somebody from running if they filed in your party. And the libertarians did the most responsible thing they knew how. They condemned him. I was there, when they did it.
Right.
And that, but I mean, the Republicans had it worse. Tom, you remember 1994 when nobody was going to run against Susan Savage, and finally Dennis Mahan files as a Republican. He's the only Republican. He's a Klan leader. Terry Simonson had to rush down there 20 minutes before closing on Friday and put his name up just to keep Dennis Mahan from being our official party nominee.
And all the Klan's members went, darn it.
Yeah. Now, Dennis Mahan since has died in prison, okay? But that just tells you what kind of character this guy was.
Better off a Klansman, right?
But you know what? I worked hard on that one for Terry Simonson.
Right.
He was never, ever going to be a candidate. He came within a whisker beating Susan Savage. It was amazing. And everybody thought there's no way he can defeat Susan.
And I think that whisker came right off of Susan Savage's lip. So we've got just about 5 minutes before we get out of here. Tommy McKay, your fantastic host for 3D Politics Live. Amazing. And you can catch me at Tommy McKay on Facebook and Twitter. I've got David Oldham from constitutionalgrounds.org. Check that out for all your fantastic constitutional information. And of course, David Van from Soonerpolitics.org. Anything you ever wanted to know about Sooner politics.
Sure. All right. Here's one. Nobody's talking about it. Very quietly last weekend, Governor Stitt put the Medicaid expansion question on the ballot for the end of June.
And what is the Medicaid expansion?
It makes it a constitutional right of all Oklahomans to have whatever the federal government's offering for expanded Medicaid. And because
they're putting it into the Constitution.
Into the Constitution. It's not statutory. Okay.
And it's completely illegal.
Well,
absolutely, it can't be a right, because to pay for it, they have to take it from you and me, and that's a Fifth Amendment violation. So it violates the Fifth Amendment.
Okay.
So there is no such right to Medicaid.
Now, the plan was for our legislature to come up with some kind of a preemptive narrative on this that might convince the people, don't go constitutional, let's do something statutory. But then our legislature got preempted by a virus.
Right.
All right. So we haven't had a chance really to go after this thing. Now, the OCPA has been really carrying the heavy bulk of the load when it comes to the lobbying effort, the public education effort, things like that. But we're going to have to step this up, because we've got, 9 weeks? 9 weeks, that's it.
Well, and here's the key thing to this. We have to get conservatives out, because very few actual very few Democrats and things like that are probably going to go to the polls. And even very few Republicans, because there's really no reason to. There's very little reason to, except for these issues, because the races are already pretty well decided because everybody's dropped out except the front runner.
That's a good point.
So therefore,
tell our listeners, excuse me, David, tell our listeners what is 9 weeks? What does that mean to people?
In 9 weeks, we have a regularly scheduled election. We have bypassed the normal presidential preferential primary period, and so in June we are going to have the actual it would be what would be set up for the runoffs. We're going to have that, and it will also actually be for the various state races. So right. we are going to have a number of races that are going to be coming up. But as you have pointed out, David, the numbers of Democrat races that have not been filed for is incredible. So the turnout for Democrats in a lot of areas is going to be nil, and we should be able, as Republicans, to vote this down without any problem. The question is, how many Republicans want this socialist bill to pass? Because that's all it is. Medicaid is pure, unadulterated socialism.
Okay, so that sets up this question. Tom, this might be all we can do tonight. We're running out of time.
Well, we're going to have to go long because I've got an issue that we've got to talk about.
And then I'll be quick on this. Is socialized medicine more attractive to the average Oklahoman? Not you and me, not us three, but to the average Oklahoman. Is socialized medicine more attractive now in the wake of the COVID experience than it was 6 months ago?
You know, the problem is that it is so ingrained that everybody is looking to the system, the government, for the answers, that I think that it actually has, in some ways, been more entrenched. Now, if you're already a skeptic of that system, or kind of lean toward independency of this of the government system, then you're probably more pushed away from it. But if you are at all in any way looking at the system and think it's legitimate in any way, shape, or form, I think right at the moment you are more likely to go with it and vote for it. So,
as you get to the higher philosophical concept of self-governance, do I have the right to calculate my own risk, or does GT Bynum tell me I can't slide on the children's slide? I want to know who is in charge around here. Okay, I don't mind to take on my own liability. I don't expect GT to pull me out of the hole. Okay, so the thing is that I can't tell GT, hey, you know what? We should have never done that Vision 2025 package because A, we can't use any of the crap you sold us. All that shit is absolutely shut down. Okay, we can't use any of the collective things we bought. All right. And guess what? Because of what GT Bynum wanted, the taxes in Tulsa, sales tax, and remember, we only raise taxes on activity we want to limit. Sales is what we want to limit in Tulsa. So we're going to limit sales tax coming up July 1st in 2021. It's going to go up by 62.5%. Now, I want to know how we're going to suffer this sales tax trauma, because GT told us we should buy into the collective purchase. Now we can't use the collective purchase. Plus, he also advocated, let's also raise taxes on July 1st of 2021, because we know we're going to be doing gangbusters business in all these places we can't go. You should have voted for me. for
There you go.
mayor. Okay,
I can't disagree with either of you tonight.
you guys are
No.
screwed out there for going with the socialist package 5 years ago. And when
Yeah.
we sold into 1918, when there was a pandemic, we didn't have a public school problem like we do today. The public school teachers weren't sleeping with the children back then. We didn't have a problem with the school system in 1918 when we shut it down for the pandemic of the Spanish flu. But today, everything's screwed up. And, you know, they have said that the way that you judge a country is by the way it treats its most vulnerable. That's bullcrap. The way that you judge a country is by the way that you treat its the education system.
It's actually how you treat the minority. Because quite frankly, a good government makes sure to protect the rights of the minority. Otherwise, you get tyranny of the majority, and that's what we're in right now.
Populism.
But you get tyranny of the minority when G.T. Bynum says, I can't go slide on the slide.
Well, that's true too.
So
Yes.
we have to have, the bottom line here is that it is the consent of the governed. If we agree, we're back to Oklahoma and the land run, we're going to open up on May 1. Are you a boomer or are you a sooner? I say open up.
Right. Well, you know, and this, the point is that no socialism is constitutional, because it all takes from us without just compensation to pay for what is supposedly the public good. And that is specifically what the Fifth Amendment prohibits, because it says no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall property be taken for public use without just compensation. So the entire point is taxation is by definition taking without compensation. It is supposed to be for services rendered to protect our rights. It is not for the less fortunate or the mega gazillionaires that want corporate welfare or protectionism for their company or whatever they want. You know, low interest loans for whatever.
Yeah, it's eleemosynary. Van, what do you got?
Well, you know, the most adamant thing that was put in the Constitution at the founding of our current day United States of America, you know, was that we cannot have an income tax, because then you're no longer a citizen, you're a subject, because they tax then whatever portion they decide of your work. That's slavery. It's slavery by decrees, because if it's 100%, then we know it's chattel slavery, right?
They're forcing you to invest in their corporation. Yes.
Right. So my thing is, we've got to get rid of income tax. Now, it was sold to us on the pretext, 100 years ago, that it's only going to apply to the mega rich.
The top 1%.
Right? Yeah. Now, the mega rich seem like the only ones who have enough tax shelters, they don't pay any.
Right.
And it's the rest of us who have lost our citizenships and become slaves. Slaves to a federal government. And I do agree. I think back in 2000, I watched Alan Keyes just totally slam dunk win that in the presidential debates, because it's at any rate, taxing somebody's productivity is making them a slave. You've got to switch to a tax that's more on consumption than on production.
The income tax is presumptively making me invest in your corporate idea. You got an idea what you want to invest in, and you're forcing me to pay money. Yeah.
So, we've got to fix that. And right now, what's really making this a disastrous thing is our states, by losing, what was it, David, the 17th Amendment, where we lost our senators? Our state legislatures no longer got to send their 2 representatives to the Senate.
Correct.
And that all of a sudden now our state Senate doesn't have in our state House of Representatives, those 2 bodies don't have a direct voice. They can't recall a senator.
Correct.
And we would have an entirely different Senate if it was truly made up of representatives of all 50 state legislatures.
Well, with income tax, what you get is you get a bypassing of the states.
Mhm.
With the senators, the removal of the senators from state legislatures, you get a bypassing of the states. So now the states are mere puppets of the federal government if the federal government does illegal things.
And now the federal government is taxed so much that the states, all the agencies, hire people just to write grants to go beg the federal government for money. And now we become beggars to the federal entity instead of parents.
This is the problem, and this is why people need to understand what is really going on, because most of this money that they're going begging for has been unlawfully taken from us, because the federal government is taking our money for things that they are not allowed to spend on. The 10th Amendment specifically restricts their authority, their sphere of authority, and reserves the rest to the states. The problem is the states are not upholding the 10th Amendment by demanding that money be returned to the states. It isn't go and beg, it's a demand. It's just like now we do not, beg the governor to reopen Oklahoma or whatever state or the local mayors. We demand it because it has no authority to close any of it.
How did we come up with this $2 trillion, though, to bail us out for not being able to work this month?
It was 6. That grew to $6 trillion.
Okay.
3 different
where did that come from? Whose piggy bank did we raid?
The Federal Reserve. I mean,
they have the money, or do they just have a printing press?
It's going to come out of thin air. It's going to be the printing press, which
every
is
dollar.
It's literally, it's just ones and zeros. It's out of thin air, and then they will sell notes to whoever will buy it, which will be either the American people or foreign entities, whomever has money.
The feds have said for decades they will never buy their own bonds.
They do it all the time.
Now they do. They are the biggest customer.
Yes.
Of the federal government's debt.
Correct. The thing is, it's all fake, because although they are the biggest customer, what they're buying it with is air.
Because junk bonds. This is junk.
It's just nothing. They're selling an image of what we want America to look at. And so if they can sell anything, I mean, the US dollar is based on nothing now. It's based on air. So any dollars,
yet it is the default world currency, is it not?
Yeah, it's just what are people willing to pay for that piece of paper?
It does.
I mean,
yes, it does.
Yeah.
We're in a house of cards like we've never seen.
Dude, I mean, we're unmoored.
Oh yes, and now what we have is people trying to take a blowtorch or a big giant fan to that house of cards, and they're within us. Let's understand, they're within us.
What I've seen on my little Facebook world is the socialists that I enjoy watching, that letting them trigger me on the way by. All these people for months and months whining and wishing for socialism, and boom, on March 15th they just flipped the switch, and here comes a $1,200 check for everybody. And what are those socialists whining about now? Oh yeah, it's unfair because I didn't get enough, or somebody got too much. It's like amazing, the smell. So I was like, oh, the smell of socialism in the morning. It's amazing how unfair equality is. My God, the socialists who want it so bad, they're going to be the people who are whining about capitalism are the same people who are going to be whining about socialism when it's all what they want. They're always going to be the whiners. Guys, we are 12 minutes past.
Yeah, we are.
Everybody back in one more time. Oldham, if you got more to go, get ready, because we got one more 15-minute segment to kill. Tom McKay here, 3D Politics Live on Facebook. David Van, SoonerPolitics.org, and of course, David Oldham, constitutionalgrounds.org. Remember, my punchline tonight is it is public opinion that makes all decisions. If you want to change your clocks to 6 to 7 on any of those dates, go for it. If you want to open up Oklahoma, go for it. Don't wait for the governor or the mayor. Go be free. And
live like a free man.
Live like a free man. They are killing consumerism. They're not just attacking Trump. They're literally, like I said, they're down on beer. I hope they order more beer. I cannot believe they are killing the amount of stuff we have on the shelves. Oldham, what have you got?
Well, it's another article that I have up on both Constitutional Grounds and 3D Politics. Go there, you can find it. What I found, I started looking around the federal code, U.S. code, so the laws, the U.S. laws, and I found a section that actually calls for fines or imprisonment for much of what we have seen inflicted upon us. Mm-hmm. So, and it covers so many other things. And so I wanted to just give everybody a quick glimpse of it. And so you can go there. It's 18 USC is the code. And it says in relevant part in section 241, and you can go there. I've got the link, I believe, for the code. I definitely put the code. I quoted the code there, but it says if two or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or because of his having so exercised the same, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for not more than 10 years or both, and if death results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include kidnapping or an attempt to kidnap, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term or years for life or both, or may be sentenced to death.
Jeez.
So now that's section 241. 242 says, whoever under any color of any law, so under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or to different punishments, and it goes into differing punishments, but it says, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned, and then gives a varying number of degrees from 1 year, 2 years, 10 years to life imprisonment, depending upon the injury that is caused the person that they inflict, and that's a section 242. So, and you can just click next there, David, and you can show that. If you click next up in the upper right-hand corner, right underneath the screen there.
I don't.
Oh, I'm sorry, you don't have that up. I'm looking at the
I
old
don't.
screen. So anyway,
Yeah.
So that's what is out there. It's in federal law. We need to exercise it, and think about all the different statutes or rules or regulations where this is going on a daily basis in every town, in every state, whether by the federal government, the state government, or the local governments. I mean, it's myriad, and it's already in law, and it's just not being enforced. Who's going to be the one to enforce it? Who's going to start? So I put it out. What's that?
There's a disconnect between the people we elect and the people who make the decision. G.T. Bynum, who we elected, is saying, well, I'll wait till, the health department tells me. And when we elect Joy Hoffmeister, she says, well, the people at Pearson Testing told me. You know, it's like,
Well,
we elect some people and they're not even the ones that are doing it.
Well, and this is the point. We started out talking about this, I believe, and Governor Murphy told Tucker Carlson that, you know, that it's above his pay grade. Well, if it's above his pay grade, whose pay grade is it?
Yeah, right.
I mean, he's the top man in the state of New Jersey. Here, Bynum is the top person in Tulsa. So the point is that they always want to do this. Bynum wanted to set up that police commission so he didn't have to. He had some sort of wiggle room in actually keeping his oath of office, which says that he will defend and support and obey the constitutions of Oklahoma and the U.S. And that he had to do his job to the best of his ability. Well, what's his job? In part to oversee the police department. So he wants to put it off on another group. So he has this ethereal, unnamed, unelected people, higher authority that he can point to. That's the appearance that it gives.
Well, and to help him maintain integrity, it's not because he's trying to get out of being in charge. It's because he's a true fascist. He believes that the group should make the decision, not one person. He doesn't believe
but he has the constitutional duty, not the group. The other thing is he is the top man, and like Truman said, the buck stops here. Stops at the top. The point is he's always pointing to somebody else. So it's and this is an apparition, and this is what we've got to point out. It is a fiction that they set up that people allow them to propagate.
Vance, what do you got?
I got some good.
Vance, what do you got?
I got some good news.
Okay.
Actually, two real quick points. Last week we were talking about Veneta being one of those tyrannical cities. Well, sure enough, they got slapped with a lawsuit from a lawyer. Well, what do you know? Within a day, the mayor backed off and just reneged on all those things. So this is what happens. You find out who's a coward. Okay? You put up a fight, you swing back, and all of a sudden, wow, find out they weren't following any rules. They're just making up their own rules.
It's like any bully. It's like any bully. It's a facade. You stand right back up to them, they back down. And that's what we're seeing across the country, because these kinds of lawsuits are being brought across the country.
All right. A little bit of homework for our listening audience this next week. This weekend I published something. There's some things happening in conservative news media. Fox News is kind of like own the conservative TV cable, right? Well, Viacom is pulling a little bit of a coup. Viacom, parent company of CBS. Well, they bought out this little Roku channel called Pluto TV. And Pluto is running circles around folks. Their ratings are going way up. And because it's streaming, little set-top device, I got one on every TV in the house, like 30, 40 bucks. And you can get Pluto.tv. They have got no less than 4 conservative cable news channels on them. The Blaze, Glenn Beck, right? His whole deal with CRTV, the Levin, all that, Louder with Crowder. Then you've got Newsmax, which has been around forever, but all of a sudden they've got money, they've got production, they've got a news crew. They are really upping their game. Viacom actually started their own called The First. And they brought in people like Dana Lash, Buck Sexton, and some others. They've got that going. And then there's truly a Tea Party type conglomerate from all over the nation called America's Voice. And all of a sudden we've got Steve Bannon's gotten involved in that. And he's got one of the highest rated shows there. It's just fantastic stuff. So all of a sudden there's all kinds of choices. And I think that CBS, Viacom, is doing it to try to peel away conservatives off of Fox News. That's what I think's going on there. So look that up. I posted that on 3D Politics. That's some fun, free. Check out some different news sources.
There's a real good point to this whole thing and to your story, David, and that is that the conservative market is big enough that now there's lots of competitors in it, that it is a bigger market than anybody has ever made out. And so that it's the libs who want to get some of that advertising dollar.
Yeah, and look what we're doing here in what 3D Politics attempted to, or what Sooner Politics attempted to do 5 years ago, was get together conglomeration of all these bloggers, conservative bloggers, to focus on state news, state politics, state issues, and that. And we just got to keep going here. We cannot let the media be owned by the left.
Anyway. One of the saving graces of our system, thanks to our founding fathers, is a federation of states, that we're not nationalists, we're not a nation state. And if we were a nation state, we would already have buckled. It's only thank God that there are a federation of states, but within that, we're still battling to, as much as we love Lincoln, he destroyed the strength of the states. And so the only thing that can keep the feds from pushing us around like school children is the state government. So we have to love, hate the state government, because we have to have the state government to get the feds off us, but we don't want the state government on us either. Hey, this is all the time we've got for 3D Politics. We have just hammered it down. Tommy McKay here. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Tommy McKay. I've got David Van, SoonerPolitics.org, and of course, David Oldham on ConstitutionalGrounds.com. We'll be back again on Monday, Facebook Live, typically an hour starting at 7. You never know when we're going to start, and you never know when we're going to end. But remember, it's all about public opinion, and we've got to get together and make sure that the public enforces our representation, and go ahead and start putting together your paper-driven notes and your CB radios, because this online thing, they're going to check it. You're going to have to go ahead and start putting together your underground hair-cutting supplies and etc. So anything else, David's?
No, have a good night. Good week.
Okay, you guys, nice job. I love the new Zoom format. It's the multiple camera shoot we've always wanted. I'm jealous, though, of Van's he's got the news desk set up there. He's got the news desk room. Anyway, guys, great job tonight. We'll see you again.
We didn't tell people what this is, and I'm not quite sure. It came from the Hubei province. I've been buying from, what is it called?
Alibaba.
Alibaba, yeah.
So you've been buying in bulk? Is that what you're saying?
And all it says is antidote.
It just looks like testicles from here.
Antidote. I don't know.
Well, at least it wasn't an anecdote.
Yes. But it could
like
be the
every
cure.
good joke. It's like every good joke. You tell the punchline at the beginning, at the end of the show. All right, guys. Good job. And Zoom until next week. You guys take care.
Good night.
All right, good night.